my lead in, my intro. I'm going to punt the football, and I'm just going to lay back and drink because I don't think I'm going to get much of a word in with you guys today.
Smart man.
So listen.
2 of us are professional broadcasters. The rest of them just drink.
So I want to say welcome to the Connected by Water podcast, powered by Joey Carty Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram and fueled by Papa's Pilar Rum.
Yes.
I remind you never to be a spectator. Listen, we got the Papa's team in here today, and I'm so proud, and Papa would be proud too, right? All right, so let me introduce you here. Going counterclockwise, we got show regular George Poveromo.
This is what, number 18?
I think something like
18
that, right?
of them?
And,
Oh, my God.
You're like Ed McMahon.
That's what I told him in the last time. I become his version of man.
Yes.
What
Yes,
was that
Johnny.
thing? I did not know that.
Yeah. Soon to becoming show regular here, Paul Castronovo.
This is number 3 or 4. I don't. It's been a blur, but yes.
Something like when
From
you start
what
losing count, that's how we know
From
it's
what
working.
radio station?
From Big 105.9.
There you go.
There you go.
All right. Thank
FM.
you.
Right?
FM.
FM, yes, sir.
FM, right. And Steve Groth, it's an honor to have you here today, sir.
What does he do?
From Papa's Pilar. He's the head honcho over at that location, at that place, at that entity, at that company. We're so thankful to have you.
It was his vision.
Thanks for inviting
Your
me.
vision.
Man with a
Yes.
gleam for a
Absolutely.
desert stopover for GIs.
It was just a hangover.
That city was Las
And I'm going
Vegas.
to look for an opportunity to pick on him a little bit later in the show, but go ahead.
All right. No,
Why wait?
No problem. Up here at the Pilar Bar, right? We got the man behind it all, Mike Myatt,
Thanks,
the
Dennis.
legend.
Glad to be here.
Love you, brother.
Love you too.
Thank
man.
you so much for coming. And we have surprise guest, right? Karl Anderson.
Late invitation.
late invitation, a
Great to
surprise
be here.
guest, and we are awaiting one more. And we'll see if
Dennis.
that happens. It may happen.
If
may
we
not.
set a
Spectator.
record for the most people on a podcast at once, I
I
believe
think it is.
Yeah, this could be the world record.
It's a
Yeah.
crowd
It could
cast.
be. It
is
could
what
be.
It is.
It could be. What were you going to say, Carl?
Never a spectator.
Never a spectator,
No,
right?
don't watch.
Right. So, and we like to have a party here. We like to throw a party here. So, and as always, the lovely Carlene behind the bar. Thank you, Carlene Rybinski. So,
Thank you, man.
before we get started into what is going to be something that I think is going to be a blast, but also something I'm probably not going to have any control over.
A cluster F.
Yeah,
right,
pretty much. And before I do that, I want to offer my thanks and my appreciation to everybody in this room.
I don't know what's going on here. It's like,
By
Is he taking off his shorts?
What's scary?
oh, what do you got here?
something special. So
It's a live chicken.
okay,
No, I don't know what's in the box.
George,
Yes.
for all you do for us here at the studio and giving us so much of your time, right? That is so valuable and so appreciated here.
Obviously, he's more
Right.
important than us.
It's a puppy. I got you a puppy.
Right? Well, listen. Every
Let the
episode,
man
I'm
talk.
kidding. I'm sorry. You start pouring drinks an hour before the podcast starts. It's on you.
it's a ferret.
Come on, Friel. It's a ferret.
No, listen. So George, every time he comes on, he talks about this 582-pound wahoo that he catches. that
Yeah.
He caught before. Like
It's
he
actually
just-
143 pounds, 3 ounces, but who's
God.
counting
Doesn't
the
stop
ounces?
talking
counting.
about it. Right?
But who's counting, George?
Yeah, every
Exactly.
episode. So you get a hand-painted wahoo.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Serious.
There
This
you
is
go.
beautiful, Dennis.
There
Thank
go.
you.
You're welcome.
And I want to say something, too. You're being very complimentary because you're always a gentleman. And the reason I do this for you, take the time, because I totally respect you. You're an amazing artist. And beyond that, you're a gentleman.
Well,
You're a man of integrity, at least what I could see. So that's why I make my time to be here with you. So, and this is amazing. Thank you so much. It's
That's
going to go in my
appreciated.
office.
Checks in the mail, George. Thank you.
Let's
So,
see that.
okay.
Check that out.
Wow.
Paul,
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, sir. I said I wasn't going to cry.
you know how I feel. You know, I've already, the first time you came into the episode, you know how I feel about you. I love you. Thank you. And I really, really appreciate it.
You know what?
So,
But he always gives me the, I grew up listening to you, and that makes me feel terrible. So
Right.
thank you.
It's like me.
Right.
People say they
Do
grew
that.
up reading my stuff in Saltwater
Yeah.
Sports and are watching a TV show. It makes me feel
You're like
Rip
the
Van
father
Winkle.
I never had.
there you go. You get that mahi chasing that flying
look
fish.
at that.
There
Let
you
me
go,
say lip.
right? So
Let me
thank
see,
you very
Paul.
much, sir.
That is
Right?
unreal.
And Steve, right, for creating such a beautiful company. As a business owner myself, I understand that you probably started that wearing a lot of hats and feeling like an octopus, right?
For sure.
So, right. So that's what I always say. I'm the octopus. That's because you can do a little bit of everything here.
Looking
So
like a manatee,
there
feeling
you
like
go.
an
There's your
octopus.
octopus, right?
Oh,
There's your
man.
octopus, right?
Wow.
Oh, my gosh. Check this out.
It's RuPaul
Right.
on a bottle of Papa's. I don't understand the.
I'm glad I got my nails done.
Karl Anderson,
The legend.
you are one of the greatest marlin fishermen alive.
Not true.
That is true. You're
Top
humble.
50.
We appreciate
Way
that.
Too many out
Top
there that
17.
are beyond
There's a
better.
marlin for you, my friend.
You
Wow.
are incredibly great. Thank you,
Right?
gracious, and thank you very much.
Carl, can I ask?
Oh,
Can I,
the guest
Yeah, sitting in the parking lot for a freaking hour.
We're live.
I'm going to have a heart attack. I just wanted a text bouncer a minute ago, and he just walked in.
There you go.
I'm gonna have a heart-
Mystery guest number one.
What in God's name just happened?
There's your mystery guest, sir.
You friggin' blew my mind.
This is it.
I've got to take my headphones
There
off.
you go. There you go.
Wait.
Our mystery guest has arrived, sir.
You've been catching them like crazy here lately.
Bouncer.
How's it going?
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry.
I
miss you, man.
Well,
I miss you so much. Oh my God.
Anytime you can make Castronovo cry, take that opportunity.
Wait a minute, that was Paul? That was Pretend Paul? I didn't even recognize her. I appreciate
Oh my God.
You didn't know that was me?
Bouncer.
I didn't recognize you.
After the hug, even?
Even after the hug, I didn't recognize you until you turned to walk away.
Oh my God! All right, this podcast has fallen apart, but who gives a crap? Oh my God, Johnny! Folks, this is Paul Castronovo. I've taken over and hijacked the podcast. Dennis Friel has walked away. George Poveromo has. Bouncer Smith, the legendary captain. I feel bad for Carl, but Bouncer has walked in. He and I haven't seen each other after hosting the fishing report on my show for over 20-something years. Bouncer Smith walks in and blows me away. And I say this because an hour ago I was going to text Bouncer and say, all your friends are here. You suck for not being here. And he just walked in. So, sit down, Bouncer. This is fantastic. By the way, you look fantastic. I lost a bunch of weight. Bouncer looks incredible. The two of us are trying to stay alive. That's a good thing. I just hugged him like only a man can hug another man without the benefit of sexual activity, and he didn't know it was me. Pull that a little closer. So you just saw some guy came over and hugged you?
I did not
And by
recognize
the way,
you.
you reciprocated,
He's a
and you
friendly
reached
guy.
around and touched me in a way that I didn't expect.
My name is not Jimbo Thomas, and and you're not A.B. Raymond. I'm John Cook, so that's not true.
Oh, my God. Good to see you, buddy.
Well,
Great to see you.
and I will throw this in just to sort of sift him into the whole fold here. As a Miami native, he's obviously a Miami native. And I always said this, and I get myself in trouble with some of the guides and captains down there, although nobody has the nerve to really stand up and really fight for it. I've always said, as far as charter captains go in the Miami area, there's nobody of a legendary status like Bouncer. And I've said this before, you have certain captains or guides that are one-trick ponies. They're great with sails. They might be great with day swords. They might be great with dolphin. This guy masters it all, from sea trout in Biscayne Bay, snook, tarpon, to bottom fishing, to day swords. Nobody covers it all as a charter captain as he had done over his entire career in Miami. And again, I was born and raised in Miami and watched him through the entire career. So I've just got to sift them into the fold like that. You could give me your $100 in a parking lot after.
So I'll say this.
I'm charging you $100 for waiting in the parking lot.
And I'll echo that, and I'll raise you one
All right.
because I watched Bouncer, and I watched him help raise my kid on a fishing boat, and you taught my son everything when it comes to fishing. I tried, but you have a patience with your customers that nobody else has. I've fished with a lot of captains. There's some grumpy bitches out there.
All right.
I took it out of my crew.
Yes, and I was going to rally on that because you're right in one aspect, but I'll two-up you on what you're saying because I know him very, very well. I've always said this, that anybody who had worked under Bouncer and had the fortitude to survive him would turn out to be a master angler captain out of Miami. And as far as I know, and you could correct me, there's only one that was able to hang in there with him and turned out to be a brilliant captain based on what Bouncer had put his way, and that's AB. Correct me if I'm wrong with that.
Well, there was Dennis Forgione.
Oh, that's right. I
Dennis,
forgot
yeah.
about that. That's right. Dennis Forgione, the fabulous Forgione, as we call him.
There you go.
And to be honest with you, I worked alone for 20 years, had the best mate in the world, and the best captain in the world, because I was
It was
everything.
you, yeah.
But-
so you retire and move to somewhere in Georgia, and yet you're here about every weekend. So did you really retire?
Well, the truth of the matter is I changed hats, but I better find some work because I'm running out of money. but I haven't been to Miami since June.
Oh, it's been June? Okay.
Really?
But I've been to fresh and saltwater North Carolina, fresh and saltwater South Carolina, freshwater Georgia, North Florida on each coast and freshwater. But I haven't been in South Florida.
Well, Mike Myatt and I had a conversation about this in the spring, and we were like, we got to get Bouncer to Tropic Star Lodge. And, I think that is the ultimate placement.
I was told we were going there for a birthday party or something. I'm still waiting for the phone call.
They haven't yet.
And I might add, he went without me.
I have a policy. I don't get involved in domestics.
Well, anyway, Dennis, you're up.
Yeah, Dennis.
Where'd you go?
How you doing, gentlemen?
Oh, good to see you. Dennis Friel.
Bouncer, I just want to say it's an honor to have you here today, sir.
Well,
and I appreciate you coming on such short notice. And if it hadn't been for Adrian texting me that picture, none of this would have happened.
How did it happen,
so-
by the way? How did it happen, Dennis?
So, Adrian Gray, very good friend of a lot of us in this room. He gloated over the snook that Regina and you caught yesterday, and sent me a picture. I'm going to be seeing him in a couple of days, and so he was like just kind of egging me on that I'm at work and he wasn't. And I said, "Hey, you got it. Tell Bouncer to come in the podcast." And I knew what we had cooking, and I said that would be perfect. And instantly a light bulb went on. And I said, "That's not going to be enough." So I called George, and I said, "George, you got to make this happen with Bouncer," and he did. And it was great.
Well, there's a little
maybe
twist.
I think I got that out
You
of,
got
out of backwards.
a little
didn't I?
backwards because we were going to get Bouncer for a total different podcast.
Show. That's right.
But what happened? Bouncer, in Bouncer Smith fashion, pretty much ramrodded this deal because I had shared your Facebook post on my page. And this morning at 6 o'clock, I wake up, or 7, there's a text from Bouncer. What is this podcast and where is it at? So I figured, whoa, because I knew this was a Team Pilar deal.
Right.
So I texted him, Bouncer, this is a Team Pampas Pilar. They're getting the team members together for a Dennis Friel Connected by Water podcast. And I sent it to him, thinking, okay, well, he'll let him know that this
and
was
he said, "What's a podcast?"
No, he said even better than that.
And what's a
So he
Papa's
comes
Pilar?
Who the hell is
back.
Dennis Friel? Oh, that one. Yeah.
So he came back, you're thinking, okay, well, it's a Pilar team deal. So Bouncer comes back with a text, and he says, "Where is it and what time I'll be there?" So I'm freaking.
hold
so
time out.
I called Dennis. Dennis, this is about what do I say? What do I do? Help me here, Dennis.
Yeah, 7:30 in the morning. I'm like just about to jump into the shower, and George calls me. I'm like, "Oh, this can't be good."
He doubled the words because I only said 2 words: when and where.
Right. Same deal.
So let me ask.
But I have to tell all of you, George Poveromo has been a practical joker his whole life.
his whole life, yes.
And
that's
he
true.
told me that we were going to surprise Dennis and to meet me here in the parking lot at 5:30. And I am never late. And I went to this tackle shop up the street and that tackle shop up the street and that tackle shop down the street. And I still got here
On
at
time.
4:45. And I've been out in my car calling
Well,
George.
that was a miscommunication because I texted Bouncer back once I got the blessing from Dennis, and he spilled that holy water on it. I came back to Bouncer. I said, and remember, Dennis, you said, what's your address? He said, you text it to me. And you did. And I copied it, and I said, between 5:30 and 6, be here.
All right, now that we've established, let me interrupt.
The liar's
now that
coming
we've
out.
established
Here
that
comes
Bouncer
the
is
liar.
here, let me just say this: we're talking to
Anybody want to read this?
All right, forget it. This is more important.
Such great stories.
We were talking.
I'm riveted.
We were talking to Carl.
Yeah, it says, well, there's
All
the
right,
address.
drop
Come on
it.
in.
We were talking to Carl earlier. They mentioned he's one of the greatest marlin fishermen anywhere. Bouncer once said to myself, my son and myself, that there are marlin offshore off Hillsborough Inlet, Boca Inlet, but nobody fishes for them. I have you
true.
both here. Is it a fact that there are marlins
Sure.
swimming around out here and that nobody fishes for them? And like the sword fishery that established itself over the past 20 years, can we establish a marlin fishery here?
They're small.
Who cares?
Who cares?
Yeah, that's my answer.
Oh, okay.
I don't know about the small part. I spent a couple of hours,
You're a
6
size
and
queen.
7 hour following them up and down the Gulf Stream on the end of a string without getting them. But the bottom answer is that it's not a red hot blue marlin fishery, but there are blue marlin occasionally. The last month of my career, we caught a beautiful blue marlin, and that last summer.
So if
was
you go to the
pretty good.
swordfish grounds and you put a spread out with a marlin spread, but yet you have a couple of dolphin lures out, or maybe some islander ballyhoo combos, can you pick up dolphin? Can you pick if you have a spreader? Can you get a marlin every now and then?
There was a boat at Miami Beach Marina called the Two Sons. And the boss said if we are going fishing, we are going marlin fishing. And every time they went out of Miami Beach Marina, they would go marlin fishing. And they caught one almost every single time. And another guy took his daughter out to catch a blue marlin off of Miami Beach. And I was sword fishing, and I had a blue marlin jump 3 times off the bow. And it was a flat, calm day, and the ocean was crowded. And I says, anybody's looking for a blue marlin, there's one free jumping at these numbers. They came out there and caught it. And they proceeded to catch 6 blue marlin on Sundays that year between Miami and Islamorada.
So there's the
Now,
answer. We
well-
just don't fish for them.
Well, I'm going to throw one in here only because Johnny Lazenby's back there, and he remembers this. We did a Papa's Pilar trip. Okay, we organized, and you had sent me some of your key Papa's Pilar guys, take these guys out fishing. We ran out of haul over, and we ran offshore to troll, and it was just terrible water. We had one dolphin. We had all the live baits. Says, let's just go in this dirty water, at least put the kites up. And we did. One of your guys on my boat caught the blue marlin, ate a kite bait.
In dirty water?
And dirty water. That's why I tried to stay off. The water was dirty to 1,000 feet. And then we put the trolled baits out. Got one small dolphin. It was dead. So I said, look, it's noon. Let's go back into dirty water. Maybe get some kings or whatever. Put the kites up, flat lines. A blue ate the short. And one of your guys got the blue. We go back into that 300-foot zone to start. Boom, he gets a sailfish. And so it goes boats of what you're saying there. But and I've got to say, out of the Team Pilar that you sent me to fish, thank God the guy with the experience was on the rod with the blue. That's all I can say.
So let's back this up. What are these Papa's Pilar fishing trips? I mean,
That we don't know about?
not
You better
invited
talk
to.
to Mike because it's in the contract.
Whose budget is this coming from?
I'll get back to you on that one, Steve. Okay,
That's
Well-
I'll get
classic.
back to you.
Well, if we're going to tell blue marlin stories, we used to have the Miami Billfish Tournament, the Lauderdale Billfish Tournament, and the Pompano Rodeo. And I fished the Miami Billfish Tournament with Jim Atria, with Bill McDonald, and we caught a blue marlin. And then we fished we fished Lauderdale. We never did any good in Lauderdale. I fished the Pompano Rodeo, and we caught a blue marlin. And then the next Miami Billfish Tournament, I fished the same guy that I fished Pompano with. And by the way, the first one ate a mullet on the kite. The second one was
Mullet. Stop right there. It's right now, the fall mullet run is underway.
well, the mullet they eat are the ones that run in the spring.
Okay, because I've netted these mullet for years, and I bring them out there. I never catch anything on the stinking mullet that are here in the fall. What feeds on them, and why don't we? Dolphin don't eat them. Kingfish don't eat them.
Kingfish love them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The
Do
ones
they?
that run in the fall, kingfish love them. Tarpon eat them very well.
Yeah, tarpon. You're right.
And I'll tell you how great it can be. I've got a charter. The guy owns my first Dusky. He lives in New York. He hires me to run his boat. He's got 20-pound outfits, and when he hired me, he says, I want to go for sailfish and tarpon. So it's January. There's no bait around. It's a lousy day with a 25-knot south wind. I go up in Dunfermline Bay, and I catch half a dozen great big black mullet. But it was the only bait I could catch. No blue runners on the beach. And this was back in 1979 or early 80, and We didn't know anywhere near as much about live baiting then. But anyway, I caught some black mullet. I go out, the water is pea green like you're talking about. And I mean, it is ugly green, but it's no current, south wind. I put 2 big black mullet on the kite.
Let me just interrupt. I love the fact that he remembers what the water and the current was like in 1979.
Yeah.
I don't know what I ate for breakfast, but continue.
I wanted to
Bouncer.
be a
Well, I
porpoise.
don't know what I ate for breakfast. But at any rate, so there I am sitting in this dirty green water, and pow, flying into the air goes this big Allison tuna. Long streamers, broadside to the boat, most beautiful strike you'll ever see. And I said, wow, did you see that? He said, no. What? I said, blah, 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 blah. And pew, there he goes the other way and eats the other mullet on the kite.
Wow.
And the guy saw it that time. So it ate 2 20-pound outfits. He fought it on one. I kept the slack from getting overly aggressive on the other one, but never bent the rod on it. And we caught a 167-pound yellowfin on the black
In
mullet.
dumbfounding, babe.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Well, I want to ask Karl Anderson here, just because you're dealing with one of the best marlin guys around. And Karl, in the condensed version, we talked about blue marlin at South Florida. If you had to give advice to an offshore angler that wants to go out of South Florida from Miami up to Palm Beach, what would be maybe the best bet for them to do to try to get a blue?
Get up deeper than 400 feet, probably 600 to 1,000. Find a spot where there's a little bait, a little structure. Just the normal fishing. Use your fishing instincts.
Well, what'd you pull? Would you be more natural, more lures, or what?
Lure than mine.
Well, because of the current. I mean, I'm a lure guy, right? I
Right.
love lures because I can cover ground, and you know, down here with the current, the way it moves, you've got to cover ground, and you got to just figure out where to be. And you know, the sword grounds would be a good spot to start. But the other thing everybody's forgetting, and Bouncer, you'll know this. In the springtime, all the big records at Bimini, and there's boards at the Bimini Blue Water that have, you know, 80, 90, 70-pound white marlin. So my deal here is by the time it gets end of February, March, I always say, boys, let's slide off into 400 and put a bait down deep, and invariably we'll catch a white marlin.
What do you define it as deep?
We'll put a bait down 45, 50 feet, and it's incredible how many times it works that we catch a white marlin. So, I mean, there's a shot at both if you're willing to work at it. But, you know, as Bouncer said, it's not red hot. It's not, you know, it's not the Dominican Republic. It's not St. Thomas. It's not anything. But if you work at it, you're going to get a shot.
But I have to finish the story. We caught the blue marlin. We caught the blue marlin on the mullet. We caught the blue marlin on the mullet on the kite. Then in Pompano, it was a point a pound and everything on the dock, and I had 2 anglers that didn't know which side of the rod the guides were on. They went under the rollers on the trolling rods. But at any rate, and me running the boat, and it was a fly bridge boat besides, so I wasn't even down there with them. So I says, we're going to go blue marlin fishing. We'll get fish to commit suicide. We left out of Pompano and blew the steering, went into Cozy Cove Marina. They fixed the steering. We went back out. I go out to 600 feet of water out the Fort Lauderdale Sea Buoy, and there's a beautiful rip. We put out mullet on Islanders, and we're trolling, ballyhoo on Islanders, and we're trolling. We catch a 267-pound blue marlin. We cannot be beat in the Lauderdale Goldfish Tournament. The guy that beat us had 2 blue marlin, 150 pounds apiece.
Speaking of the Pompano Beach Fishing Rodeo, it just reminded me a couple of weeks ago they had a memorial for Patty Carr, who put the rodeo on for I don't know how many years.
Wait, okay, now I'm behind the time. She passed away.
She did.
I was just going to interject the same thing.
Yeah, she passed away, cancer, a couple of years ago.
Wow.
She battled it for a while. They moved to her and Vince
I
moved to
remember,
Hawaii.
sure.
And everybody, we met at the Cove, and it was really nice to see everybody. And, you know, I broke my heart because Patty was just a great lady who just really threw a great tournament for many, many years. As I'm walking around having drinks with everybody, I see a buddy of mine there, and I'm like, hey, I haven't seen you so long. I'm like, where's your better half? And he's like, oh, she died of COVID 2 weeks ago. I'm like,
Oh, no.
oh. He goes,
COVID.
no, I crawled under the table. He goes, no, it's okay. She knew she was going to go. I'm like, okay, that was
You knew
weird.
you were going to go from COVID?
I don't know. It
What
was
does that
weird.
sneak up on you?
But it was weird.
Yeah.
But everybody mentioned you, Bouncer, and like the old days from the rodeo.
We had some good times
Yeah.
on the rodeo.
Yeah,
so
it's the
Bouncer,
best I
tell
ever
me-
did in a fishing tournament, I might add, was a 10th place finish, except for winning the Miami Dolphin, which is pretty impressive. But 10th place in the rodeo against, with back in the day when 300 boats were fishing the thing. 10th place to me was like, I'm the king.
Any guy that works on radio 5 days a week and goes fishing with his buddies on the weekend that weighs something in the tournament is doing a great job. That's the backbone of these tournaments for years, and that's why they failed. Was because there were too many guys that became too good, and the little guy couldn't compete with him.
That's very true. That's why the tournaments have changed over the years. You're so right, because it got to the point where the guys that fish they go out with 7,000 baits and they can put 40 kites up at once, and they fish 5 days a week. The average Joe who gets up in the morning on a Saturday and we're going to book bouncers someday, and they watch George on TV, and they go fishing, there's no way they can win the tournament.
Well, Bouncer and I had this conversation well before we got here. I had talked about it on the podcast that the whole complexion of fishing has changed. I was talking with Bouncer privately about how growing up, it used to be the quality of the catches on when they had 6-pound class category or an 8-pound. And if you could score a 40-pound dolphin on 8-pound, I mean, what you caught on light tackle was really the benchmark, and that's what people would go for. And it seems that has just sort of faded away. And you had said what's happening now, even though you have more people in the game, that more people are interested more in the numbers of things they catch than the accomplishments of doing something on light tackle.
Well, it's a two things involved. Fishing is so tough that nobody wants to lose the fish, and the sharks are bad, so you got to get them in quick. And then you add to that the fact that because you're using heavy tackle, you can't brag about, well, I caught a 10-pound gag grouper on 50-pound tackle, but you can brag about the fact that you caught 10 sailfish or 20 sailfish
the sales
or
have
50
always
sailfish.
that's always been a numbers game, but you don't see the people going out for what would 8-pound trying to get some of the bigger dolphin or trying to get some of the real big kings. Maybe get a 40-pound king on 8 or 12. You don't see that like we used to see.
But I don't care if you're in North Carolina, South Carolina, North Florida, South Florida, the Gulf of Mexico. If you go light tackle fishing today, you are not fishing. You're live baiting for sharks.
Right. Which brings up the whole other issue entirely. The
sharks.
George,
all right,
George, one of the other things that's happened is we do have one light tackle tournament in South Florida. It's the IGFA light tackle tournament. It's a 12-pound tournament. It's great fun. It's everything. Because we want to put the focus back on the angler. What's happened in this whole deal is the focus has gone on the crews.
That's true.
And the crews have taken over the deal. God bless him. But I think that the guy writing the check ought to be catching his fish and not laying on the couch.
Carl,
so
dead on.
A couple of things that happen, and the skill has been taken out as far as line class angling because manufacturers don't promote IGFA rated line. We're fishing 20-pound line in sailfish tournaments that breaks at 28, 30 pounds. Right. How can you say that's light tackle? I mean, we fish 30-pound for blue marlin, and we're doing this for sailfish. This is craziness. So, I fish IGFA line on everything that we do because I want my anglers to know exactly where it's going to break, when it's going to happen. And it's one of the things that just wears me out. But you've hit on a couple things, and I think that it's incumbent on the tournaments to, look at their participation and realize what's going on because they're going to lose it.
Well,
and we've lost the weekend guy. We've lost the guy that wants to go out and try and
that's me.
That's no good.
Can I ask a fishing question though?
Sure.
This is shifting gears from tournaments. This is really important right now. We're in October. I don't know if I've ever seen a dolphin season kick off in October like I have this year.
It's been recent years. It's been
all
good.
year round.
All
It's
later,
been going on for
later.
my
Yeah,
It's outrageous, but normally it's a May, June, July thing.
But it's become not as consistently June and July for 10 years now.
Has it been that?
We've had a
everything's
lot of
been
years.
moving later.
We've had a lot of years that October through December have been the prime dolphin.
What is the reason for that? Because a lot of people don't know. We go out there in the springtime, we go crazy. We're out looking for dolphin, and nothing happens. And then in October, is it bait? Is it temperature of the water?
There's a song. It's called "It's God's Country." You'll have to ask someone more powerful than us.
I have a theory on that. I have a theory on
Go
that.
ahead,
to be honest
Dennis.
with you. I don't know if you guys recall this or not, but a few years back, do you guys remember the planetary wobble?
yes. Believe it or not,
Shortly after
and
that,
it wasn't a dance song by Chubby Checker.
and a lot of people don't talk about that, but shortly after that, a lot of that changed. A lot of things started getting later, and I'm wondering if it has anything to do.
Well,
with
let's
it.
circle
So the
back
world's
to
coming
what
to an end.
we're talking about here with that late season Dolphin run. And Karl Anderson would definitely know this. I'm sure Bouncer would too. And I'm going to set the hands of time back to the 80s. When they discovered they had blue marlin off of Woods Wall off of Key West, Norm Woods
That's right.
would go out and he had pioneered his fishery. He said the prime months over there, the prime month was October. And so Mako had scheduled an owners tournament there. We had fished in October, got our blues down there. And if you recall, in that time period, there was also dolphin around too. In those blues, it's a natural food fish. They're following the dolphin or mahi in there. So you go back to these late seasons like we're talking about with the mahi, the blues are around there too, but that was always a fall deal. Not that the marlin pass through in spring, but that October time frame was really a hot place for the blues out of Key West.
No doubt. That's when they had the tournament too, right?
True, that's
that
right.
was when the was it Drambuie or one of the liquors.
Even
It was
before
Drambuie.
that.
The Key West tournament, and that was like an event. I mean, because it broke up between after your summer season and then before your winter season, and the Key West Blue Marlin deal. That was like you went there.
And people forgot about that now.
Absolutely.
They've gotten away from trolling. And then you're looking at right now is the prime time to be down there working at.
Yep.
So I want to interject here, real just briefly, okay? Because we only really.
Have you introduced yourself as who you are in this podcast?
Yeah. Can I say something? Damn it! No.
Welcome to the George Poveromo hour.
Right. Yeah. I
thought it was the Bouncer Smith
I thought
hour.
it was the Paul Castronovo hour.
I almost felt like I needed to raise my hand there. No, but Paul says to raise your hand. So I want to really just interject one thing, right, to give a little bit of perspective on this episode, because this is really what the whole connected by water theory is all about, and is the same notion that brings us all together today, right? So we are all kind of connected by Papa's Pilar rum here, right? So everyone in this room is part of the Papa's family, right? And I wanted to shed a spotlight on that today, because that really is what brings everything into the fold. And that's why this episode is what it is today. So Mike has not said much today on the mic here.
Which
But
is
I want you
shocking.
to, I want
moment.
Mike. Yeah, I want Mike to kind of like interject a little bit, and I want to bring up things like the legacy and some of the things that Papa's has going on, because I think it's really important what Papa's does have going on and the influence that you have had on the high end of this industry.
Well, I appreciate all the kind words that have been said about Papa's Pilar. It's really an honor to work for this company where, we are at the top of our game. We're a small company. We pivot quickly. It was a vision by Stephen Groth right here, and
Call me Steve. It makes me nervous.
I know.
Is your mother here?
Steven, get in here, clean your room.
Exactly.
Stephen. But we had a philosophy that we built out on 3 years ago, and that was to build this community by not so much asking people to be part of our community, but us asking them if we could be part of their community. And it's a formula that's really worked well for us. And through the innovation and our master blender, Ron Call, it's been able to come up with these incredible products. And Stephen's mastery of, marketing and...
I'm trying to think of what I do,
he's
right?
the punniest guy.
Me
He's
too.
the octopus.
He's the punniest guy I know.
Yeah.
You can give him a phrase. You can say, I need a name for this, and Stephen can come up with it like that. But he's fully prepared to speak on the legacy, which is our latest release, which is absolutely incredible. Stephen, I have it written down on my arm. Right here. Remember?
Yeah. I have a mental block for one of the casks that it's finished in. But so is this the commercial aspect of the show? Let's go back.
Well, no. I actually wasn't meaning this to be a commercial. I just really wanted to shed a light on the fact that this is the Papa's crew. Minus a few important
Yeah,
ones.
we're great. I mean, we've got the vice president of sales from Florida, Johnny Lazenby, behind me. He's a 3-man gang that goes and has led our sales team. I mean, Steven.
Johnny. See, I love Johnny because Johnny occasionally will just show up at random and drop off a case. So,
Hey,
Johnny, you're good people.
It's amazing.
Has anybody ever asked Steve Groth, the day that the light bulb went off and you decided to create this product, how did it come to be?
Wow, that's deep.
Let me give it the 30-second intro to that. I'm the COO Corporate Relations Director at IGFA at this point in time. My associate Denise, who I love dearly, came in and said, "We have a rum company that wants to come in and they want to partner with us." And I'm thinking to myself, here comes a guy with a plaid jacket and a bottle of spiced rum and 2 tickets to a Marlins game, probably third deck.
Right.
So I said, she goes, he sounded really nice. And it was Steve's son, Kyle. So they showed up at IGFA with this deck and going over, the history. Ernest Hemingway was the vice president of IGFA. They're a Hemingway licensed product, the good that they do by giving back. The proceeds that they give to conservation and literacy groups. And quite frankly, we're about halfway through the presentation. I said, I'm all in. I'm good. I'm in. Let's get down to it. Let's try the juice.
Right.
And,
Let's get to the drinking part of it, right?
Well, we don't have any yet.
We didn't have any.
It's like, wow.
Zero. So imagine a really good tasting rum.
That's exactly.
Imagine that it's awesome.
That's exactly what he said. He goes, just imagine the best rum you've ever had right now. But with that, I'll just introduce Steve. He's a great guy. He's assembled a great crew, and it's, you know what people say, if you have a job that you love, it's never work.
It's mostly true.
My review's coming up in a week or so.
It's the end of the year. It's the end of the year.
Well, Mike, if it's any consolation,
Don't touch me.
you've brought a lot of fishermen
That you have.
into Papa's Pilar family. I mean, wherever you go, fishermen are drinking Papa's Pilar, and you've been the backbone of that program.
And I'll back that up. It was what I said about Dennis, too. And I know Mike for a long time in a lot of the different avenues that he's been involved with IGFA. And when you really look at the industry and you boil it down, Mike is, again, one of the true gentlemen of the industry. And
well, let's not get carried away now.
Gentlemen,
Well,
I don't know.
You've never traveled with him, obviously.
no, I never traveled him, but his web goes long and far, and people seem to gravitate to him and respect what he says. So he's a definitely a heavy hitter and an anchor.
But the other thing about is the involvement that he's brought with Papa Pilar into the fishing community, as far as inshore, offshore, and the impact that they've had on tournaments that do good work in conservation and work to help our industry become better. And that to me is I get goosebumps thinking about it, and I'm very proud to be here and drinking Papa's Pilar with these guys.
And I'll say one more thing related to Steve.
Just
and
one
then
more
we're
thing.
We're going to turn him loose to say what he has. But what intrigued me most about him, the father, Papa's Pilar rum, and the head batter, the whole bit. When I sat down with him and his son Kyle, going back several years, whatever it was, for the TV sponsorship, we sat down to talk about this. And what intrigued me most about him was not the genius behind what he did in establishing his Papa's Pilar brand, but when he talked about what he had done in the past and his relationship with Celador concerts.
Yep.
And he told me he was involved in that. And I said, wait a second, you were involved with Celador concerts? And he goes, oh, yeah. And I said, do you have any idea how much money I spent as a young kid to go see all these concerts, which they had a monopoly on most of the really good bands? I said, you have no idea how much money you took out of my wallet back there with the Celador days.
Do you know how many free concerts I, as a radio personality, stole from him?
So tell me the Celador deal. Talk briefly about that, but then come back to Pilar's. But that intrigues me the most about you, only because I was into the music and all
Celador
that.
And don't let George fool you. He's getting the money back every single year.
That's right. Thank God. I'm still behind it all, but what you did with Celador, that was an amazing deal.
Yeah, it was cool. I was I like to tell people I'm a recovering CPA. I worked for Deloitte for I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years, and I actually started their entertainment practice in South Florida, which sounds, impressive, but it was just a way to hide from doing tax returns and so on. So I picked up all kinds of clients, like Mel Fisher was one of my first clients right before he found the Atocha in Key West. And so that became a big deal, and Universal. And then Celador became one of my clients. And then after a while, I thought it might be a great place to, that's a natural transition, right? A CPA to go be a concert promoter.
Sure, it just matches.
So I moved over there as their CFO, and then I became president and a partner in that business. But
there's a head banging analogy in there.
Yeah. So anyway, that was it was fun. It was an industry that was in transition. It started, grew from a business where you were settling shows with a Halliburton case and a 45 to like stadium shows and building your own building. So built that out. We grew it from $20 or $30 million business to $500 or $600 million, and then we were kind of the last roll up that went into SFX and Live Nation.
It was. I mean, you owned the world back then.
Well, wait, how do you go from concert promoter to rum purveyor?
Yeah, there was a few things in between.
Yeah. Because I mean, as a fisherman and a rum drinker, you and I met casually, but I'm a fan of the product before I met you. So, do you just hire the best people? And you go, I want to have a rum, and let's hire this guy to make it?
No, it's after I sold Cellar Door, I had a stint in Eastern Europe in prison. Actually, no, it wasn't prison. No, so
gloves with no
What was her
fingers.
name?
He was a shower attendant.
So I built a big marketing network. Bought 35 companies, advertising, digital companies, and so on, and sold it 15 years ago. And I was really just throwing cards in a hat, trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And I was a kid, so I wasn't, well, not really a kid. I'm like 70 now, so so I wasn't sure what to do. But I really liked the idea of craft spirits, and that there was a whole different consumer, different type of product that was coming around, and so I just got together with some partners and this genius who was in the whiskey business. He was the inaugural member of the Bourbon Hall of Fame. And we got together and we launched a bourbon called Angel's Envy Bourbon first. And so I grew that and just learned it, by fire. I just got into it and made every single mistake possible. And it was, that business was
Angel's Envy is a huge product.
Yeah.
I mean, that was big. I mean, I don't even drink bourbon, and I know about it.
Yeah, we sold it to Bacardi like 4 years ago. It was a runaway train. And in front of the cameras, it looked gorgeous. Behind the cameras, it was a total mess. We were, just trying to keep up with demand and so on. And it was really a one and done thing. So I just thought, hey, listen, this would be interesting. We got to the point where we needed to transition it to somebody else. And the Bacardi people we've known forever. We grew up with them down here. And so we sold that business, and as it was, as we were completing the transactions, the Hemingway family came to me and my partner and said, would you be interested in doing something with us? And because we want a vehicle to give all the money to charity. We want to give it to conservation and literacy charity. And since all of the people that were part of Angel's Envy and all the people that were part of the team were all watermen. They're either divers, surfers, fishermen. So this was so much in our DNA, even more than Angel's Envy, that, and it was the Hemingways, and we're trading stories with Patrick Hemingway, Ernest's only living son. Actually he told the stories, and I just shut up. But anyway, that's the way it started, and we tapped the guy that made Angel's Envy to help us make the rum, and then took a lot of the team and built built Papa's behind that. And so the idea was, we liked it because it had a really unique story, but it was more about the lifestyle and the culture. And we had, not by my doing, but we had assembled this badass team of people that could make great product. And then we brought in new people that were rum experts, 20, 30 years at Beam and at Cruise and Rum and so on. And so we had, on one side, we had world-class creation, and then we had this lifestyle group, and it was a collision between the lifestyle adventure Hemingway watermen and really great rum. And then it just became fun. So what we like to say a little bit behind the scenes is that we're a conservation business that also makes rum.
Yeah.
And that's really how it started, and that's probably why it's been so authentic, I guess. And Mike and I became fast friends. We're immediately when we met, and so he was a perfect person to bring into the organization. And really, I just sit back and let these guys do the magic because they're smarter and better, and
the rum sells itself.
Yeah, we've been fortunate, and I think it probably is because of the team, and that we are, instead of being wallpaper at events, we actually fish the events.
Because we're never a spectator. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, Dennis, did you have a comment, Dennis?
Well, I mean, I just want to say, it's super impressive to hear the story about the evolution of the company, because everyone's always curious about that. And I love how you talk about bringing in the Hemingway fold and the Hemingway family and all that. And I think that speaks to the romanticism of the product. And really, that really is an ultimate factor, I think, when you're drinking the rum, is that the fact that you feel inspired and you feel kind of like you are a part of that story whenever you become a part of the rum. And I know we have here.
Yeah, it's a tough order, to live up to the reputation of Ernest Hemingway and his family. And as we built the brand, the whole Hemingway family has gotten involved. So it's a true partnership.
As a rum drinker from 1,000 years ago, going back to college, I never drank a rum that I didn't always have to mix with something.
This is you drink by itself.
I don't. Yeah, I just
right.
pour it on the rocks every now and then. If I'm on the boat, maybe a little coconut water because I need to hydrate. Hello, but I really, I'm
Still on the coconut water.
Yeah.
We're not gonna let the coconut water go.
Next time there'll be coconut water, Paul.
By the way, I'm just saying. So little note fact.
Those damn coconuts.
First time Steve and I met.
So I forgot again.
The second time he and I met, but I didn't remember the first time. But we're in the Keys, and I'm like, hey, Steve Groth. I went to a college with a girl named Barbara Groth.
Yeah.
He goes, yep, my sister. And she and I did radio together
Wow.
First radio gig.
in the 1980s, before I even came to South Florida. So it's like he and I are brothers, and we don't even realize it.
Well-
I love his sister like family, but he's okay.
Steve, I want to spin back off. Let's go back to Pilar, because obviously we all know the deal. But people question, okay, Papa's Pilar. They ask, what is Pilar, and what is that bottle shaped as? What's the lid shaped as? Take us through the entire meaning of everything that bottle
It's Ernest
stands for.
Hemingway's penis.
Everything. Wow. I can't even comment.
Thanks for coming out, everybody. This is Make Connected by Water.
We were all part of the last one.
That's what you get for serving drinks. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I'm totally off track here. But,
All right, Pilar. Wasn't that the name?
That's actually a good question. I've always
No,
been
it
curious
is.
about why did you
People
shape the
ask me
bottle
that
the
a
way you
lot,
did.
and
Yeah.
I educate them. Why is the bottle shaped like that?
Can I answer that?
What's Pilar? Go ahead.
the answer?
Go ahead.
Well, Pilar was Ernest Hemingway's girlfriend's name, so he named
Well, okay,
both Pilar.
Wife.
But wife, which one though?
Oh,
you got a choice of 1 to 15.
I think it was number 2 or 3.
You're right, 2.
And the canteen is symbolic of Ernest Hemingway's time
Bingo.
in the war. And
Bingo.
he was a war correspondent. He actually stormed the beach at Normandy. He was one of the correspondents that went on the beach in the first landing. And it has significance because of his time there and pulling wounded soldiers off. I mean, the guy was a dynamic guy.
Steve, was that your idea, the canteen?
Actually, no, but I approved it.
just say yes.
Now, don't forget the lid. The lid is a compass.
And the lid is a compass.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Well, as I say, when we open a bottle, we throw the lid away, but this one I don't because it's the only way I can get home.
So Karl is actually going to be the new CEO of Papa's Pilar.
Yeah. Carl, just remember me, okay?
Yes.
One thing I want to bring up, and not to interrupt the moment here, but we talk about transitions, right? And I want to just also shed a spotlight on the fact that we have Bouncer Smith in the room.
Yes. Legend.
And
Carl Anderson, too.
And Karl Anderson lives
And,
like
George
like
Poveromo.
500 feet from here.
Yeah. I'm the closest.
But we talk about transitions, and I'm really, really curious about this because you've recently transitioned into retirement out of Florida, and I want to ask you, how has that been? Because I think a lot of people are curious about that.
Well, retirement was due, and it was more a family issue than anything else. We moved to Georgia because my sister's grandkids lived there, and they were at an age where they needed some grandparent guidance, and I kind of been the pseudo grandfather to them. And I took my grandson, or my sister's grandson, from straight D's, staying at home for COVID, and I sat over him the whole school day every day. And when the school year ended, I had him straight A's.
Oh, that's
You
great.
gave him the
Dean's
bouncer
list.
treatment.
Yeah.
Good job, bouncer.
Tough love.
That was quite a thrill. The fact of the matter is I retired way too far from the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
you did.
I have gone from being a fishing guide and never touching a rod and reel to plug casting, fly casting, spin casting, freshwater, saltwater, vertical jigging, you name it, I'm doing it, and I'm having a ball.
Oh,
I'm gonna-
I'm glad to hear that.
But I need to become a sales rep for somebody because I'm rapidly running out of money.
Connected by water as well.
There you go.
Bouncer, can I ask you a question? Do you think that there is an opportunity today in this business to bring back something like the Met where people had that angling challenge?
You know, the person that comes close to trying to get kicked that off is there are two people, or one organization and one people. Wayne Kahn tries to get all these kids. He takes Ironman trips where everybody's vertical jigging and slow pitch jigging, and he tries to get these kids to go with lighter braid to go with these really light rods they use. And there's one organization that still runs like the Met used to, and that's the West Palm Beach Fishing Club.
West Palm
Yeah,
Beach.
there are
Yeah.
two of them. The Key West Fishing Tournament still goes on today. You had the Met Tournament runs over pretty much the winter months. The Key West Fishing Tournament the summer months. That Key West Fishing Tournament is still going on, basically the same format. But Carl, that is I grew up with the Met, as a lot of us did in South Florida, and I thought about that often. And I don't know. I think if you had to do it, say, on a national level, if you had a huge backer, a Mercury Marine, a Johnny Morris with Bass Pro Shops, and somehow could organize this on a national level, and you do 2 in a year. You do the winter and do the summer and award certificates and then awards. I could almost think that would definitely make it happen. The only thing that concerns me, and this happened in the Met, is, it's for the sport, but then you always have some of the cheaters that want to forge line classes and all that. But I've thought about that a lot.
All right. One final question, Bouncer.
Yes,
I took a
Skinny,
friend.
how can I help
I
you?
took a friend of mine. He was I'm a bass fisherman, saltwater, blah blah blah. I took him offshore one day with a load of pilchards, and we ran offshore and we found a log. And I was like, "You're gonna catch a mahi." I said, "Cast a pilchard like a bass fisherman right next to that log." And he hooked a 28-pound bull dolphin.
Nice.
And he said, "I'll never bass fish again." You have been bass fishing and freshwater fishing for the last year or so. Do you find that same level of excitement?
If somebody tells me we're going to go catch threadfin herring and I get a bite on my sabiki rig, I'm excited.
All right, you're like me. Okay, just catch anything. Okay.
Anything I catch that I am targeting or not targeting,
Yeah.
if the rod bends, I'm thrilled. I mean, I caught the biggest fish I caught. Well, no, the second biggest fish I caught yesterday was a gaff topsail catfish,
Oh, wow.
and I hooked it on an artificial lure, and it immediately started to walk off, and then it started running off, and Adrian Gray and Regina Gallant Gray went into panic mode with turn left, turn right, get the boat going, and so on and so forth. And we chased this redfish giant snook all over this part of the Indian River Lagoon. And it came up, oh, it's a catfish. I said, no, look at the fight I've had. Look at the
Yep.
excitement I've had. Where's my boga grip? You gotta get the boga grip so we can pick it up for pictures. I was
More
thrilled.
people should have your attitude when it comes to fishing because you do appreciate everything you catch, and that's a testament to what you love. And then you're one of the rare people that figured it out at a young age.
It's really funny, but if I go fishing behind your house or on the beach, and I catch a jack crevalle, oh, it's a doggone jack. I thought I was going to have a snook or a redfish.
Yeah.
But people will spend millions of dollars to go catch a trevally. which is a
Jack.
member of the
Jackavelli.
Jack family.
I had a friend of mine. He's a stand-up comedian. His name is Arnez J. He lives in Atlanta, but he grew up fishing, and he calls me one day and he goes, "Hey man, do you know where I can catch puffer fish?" And I go, "Well, yeah, you can catch 8 million of them in the canal behind my house." He goes, "Me and my buddy are going to come to your house this weekend." He was appearing at the Improv. I go, "Okay." And he came to my backyard, and they caught puffers, and they caught them for an hour and a half, and then they cleaned them all. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Are you kidding me?" He goes, "It's the best eating fish in the ocean." For the life of me, I'm like, "Okay, well, listen, here's my doctor's card. If you, but no, he just, for them, it was the most fun they ever had, and they loved it.
You speak of puffer fish. Has anybody else experienced the great resurgence of the rabbit fish?
And what?
The rabbit fish. I went to Cedar Key, and every cast with a rubber lure, a rabbit fish would destroy your
What
lure.
is a rabbit fish?
And then get hooked.
Do you know what a rabbit fish is?
I was
They,
in
they,
North
they,
Carolina.
they run hard around Easter.
What are they?
I was in North Carolina.
They really like orange lures.
I was in North Carolina last week.
And they're squishy.
All right, enough of this.
I was in North
got
Carolina
one.
last week.
Dennis, it's over.
I
Save
got
us.
one of their feet mounted on my keychain.
Dennis, save us. Time to come in and save
No,
us all.
I got to finish
hair-raising.
this. I'm in North Carolina, and they're
I
trolling.
want to hear about the rabbit fish.
They're trolling Clark spoons and single hook ballyhoo, and they're catching rabbit fish
All
every
right.
trip.
What's a rabbit?
A rabbit fish
It looks like a puffer.
looks like the face of a rabbit. It is a puffer. It's a smooth puffer, and they average about 3 to 5 pounds.
Oh.
Does it have teeth
And-
like a sheep's head?
No, they have teeth like a blowfish.
I'm getting visuals of a rabbit.
But-
Oh, look, I'm Googling it as we speak.
But they were very common when I was a kid, but they completely disappeared, and now they're rampant in a lot of places.
Oh, it's not a lie. It's the truth. Rabbit
Wait a minute,
fishes.
wait a minute. Do I think I'm a fisherman? Oh, that's what I am, aren't I? All fishermen are liars with me and Paul. I'm not too sure
This is
about
true.
Paul.
I've been lying for years.
All right, so really, what I want to, I wish more people would actually. I want to go back to what Paul kind of said, like the perspective you have on if I catch a thread pin, I'm happy, and I'm happy that comes out of your mouth because you're one of the greatest fishermen on the planet. So like hearing it from you should be reassuring to everyone else in the world. Like the fact that whatever you catch, you should be satisfied with, because if you're catching, you're not working, right? So
Good
that's
point.
kind of the theory, right? So I want to also bring a light too on the fact that one of the things that really connects us all to, and this is Boat Show Week, right? And I wanted to get this big episode. Actually, Mike, it was your idea to get this episode going. And the fact that these things bring us all together, and what it means to us, and the value of the fact that, and I want to just take a personal moment here and to say that what we built on this show started from, and it's ironic because I got John Watler in the room right now, and he was here helping me develop this show, and he developed the show for the first 80-something episodes, and he's walking around here taking pictures, and I'm proud to have him here because I'm looking around in the room, and the level of talent and the level of gravitas, or whatever you can call it, that's in this room, and what this show has become. And I'm looking around at the people in the faces smiling at me right now, and I couldn't be prouder than to have all you guys in the room. I really mean that. Like, and I wanted to take a moment on this show to just mention that. I got Paul Castronovo over here, who, Paul, we've already discussed this. He's one of my heroes, growing up, and he hates when I say that
Because it makes me feel
it
older.
makes you feel old. I get it, but it's true, and
You are old.
and
Oh,
I
yeah,
love you to
that's
death,
true.
and I appreciate that. And
Thank
Mike, really we become so tight over the last year or so, and I appreciate it. And Carl, same as you. You know what I mean? And George, I can't thank you enough for everything like that. And Steve, it's an honor to be working for Papa's Pilar. I really do mean that. And Bouncer, one of the things I always say is that I love when I meet people on the show for the first time. And this is the first time we're actually meeting in person. And it's a special moment for me. And I just wanted to kind of use that as an aside to just bring that up to you. So because I've looked up to you over the years, at the Lighthouse Point Fishing Club. You did a talk there one night. I was in the room and I was enamored by everything you had to say. So, and I really want to say that this is when we're meeting, and it is an honor to have you on the show. And it speaks to the level of where we've taken it so far. And I wanted to say that Papa's Pilar is a continued sponsor of the show, and I really just want to recognize that and raise a glass to everybody.
Raise glass.
Salute, as the Italians say.
It's our privilege.
Let's go eat.
Steve.
So we are kind of winding up here.
And I'd like to say one thing on behalf of all these. No, you know what? I'm going to keep this short, Paul. Like your schnizzle. I had to get one back at you.
Like your Pilar bottle.
But like your Pilar bottle. But I just would like to say, on behalf of everybody here, Dennis, thank you very much. Yeah. And you wouldn't have the level, as you put it, of characters in this room without you being the host here, because it's everyone's here is connected by water, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
It really means a lot, Mike.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
I think it's
Thanks,
great
Dennis.
to have all this
Golf claps
for eternity and have these guys. When you talk about Bouncer Smith and George, we all had worked for Peter. I was there with Peter Wright. George was there. Bouncer was there. We're at a meeting with Penn Reels, and we were talking about spinning reels. And Bouncer led off into this diatribe with a litany of fish that he had caught that day. I looked around and I'm like, holy smokes, man. And I already had known Bouncer's reputation and everything, and I was just always enamored. And really, it's an honor to be in the same room with you, Bouncer.
That's okay. I've never caught all those blue marlin in Morocco either. So.
I used to follow Bouncer around Dumbfounding Bay when I first moved into Hallandale, and I'd always stay about 500 or 600 yards away from him, watching what he was doing. And I believe it was at one of the IGFA events, and Bouncer looked at me and goes, "You know what, Myatt? It would have been cheaper just for you to book me one day. I would have given you all those spots."
Hey, speaking of Mike Myatt, the one catch that I'm insanely jealous that he had made was in Haller Inlet with a mutton snapper. How big was that thing?
That was big. That was big. Even the one-armed guy said it was this long.
Yeah.
No, that was a big mutton. It was 20.
Wow.
Can't even remember what it was.
And Hallover Inlet.
It's Hallover Inlet. Actually, it was a place that
It was 20 centimeters he's talking.
No, you know what? It's one of those places that you always want to be fishing in someone else's boat.
Right.
Because if it's your boat, you have to be way too attentive. And, I had the good fortune one night of going down there looking for snook and caught a mutton.
But it was a humongous mutton. I always liked Mike until he told me how big that mutton was. They cut a hole over it, and I really sort of hated him from that point on.
Yeah.
Listen, so I always gauge on whether or not another guy has my respect is if I can look him in the face and say, "Man, that guy is so freaking good." And I can say that about every single one of you guys. I appreciate you coming out to my show tonight. It really means a lot.
It's an amazing room. I mean, you look around the room.
Pretty cool.
No, Bouncer.
World-class marlin fisherman, world-class drinker, world-class CEO,
Smartass?
radio,
Right.
all media, writing, TV, the whole nine
Yeah.
shit.
Nice. I want to give a shout out to Carlene here, who's here,
Carlene!
your show after show.
Thank you
All right, thank you very much. She's
bartender
serving
on the
us. She's
coast.
making sure you guys don't go thirsty. Miss Sanderson, thank you very much over here on the side. So
Nice.
thank you very much. All right, and we're going to wrap it up because we have dinner reservations, so Paul keeps letting me know. So, all right, your ego.
It's not your amigo.
Not your amigo.
Here we
right?
go.
Always do your best and let God do the rest, right? And in the end, please don't ever forget that no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, we're all connected by water. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thanks,
Thank
Dan.
you.
Cheers.
Yeah, man.
Good stuff, brother.
Good one.